all humans.
Hmm.
So we all are neurodiverse,
Okay.
right? We all have our own sort of unique ways that our brains are wired and how our neurotype functions. And so this applies to everybody. So we just sort of have this belief that, oh, humans are neurodiverse.
And there she is. Oh,
That was fun.
that was fun. Mommy enjoyed that. I enjoyed that. You were right behind the curtains. That's where you were. Well, hi, Dr. Grant. Thank you so much for being a part of the third annual Innovative Child Therapy Symposium. Every chance I get to work with you, I take it. I'm a huge fan of yours. I found out about you first, I believe it was through your YouTube channel. Your YouTube channel has so many great resources. You do demonstrations. I'm thinking of one right now with bubbles and toys, a little singing bowl. So I was like, who is this guy? And then I reached out to you and we've done a few things together. So I was thinking it'd be cool today for this symposium if we could talk about, I know in the beginning when I was a school counselor, the terms and the language of autism used to really get me. So really looking at like key terms and phrases to know when working with autistic kids and neurodivergent kids. But
Mhm.
before we jump into that, let me just have you tell people who you are and what you do.
Okay, thanks, Jackie. I'm happy to be back and doing this again with you. What a great resource for people. These symposiums are so cool, just such a fun way to get you some good information. So thanks for the invite. And I'm a mutual fan. So we're mutual
Yeah.
fans, we'll say.
I like it.
um, yeah. Well, I mean, you introduced me. I'm Dr. Robert Jason Grant. I'm a registered play therapist supervisor. Play therapy is at the heart of everything that I do, mental health wise, and what I believe in terms of working with kids. I am currently on the board of directors for the Association for Play Therapy. So every chance I get to spread the word about all those therapeutic powers of play and the benefits of kids participating in play therapy, I'm going to do it. um, and then I have a clinic in Southwest Missouri where I live. It's called the Alt Play Therapy Clinic.
Mhm.
And this is a kind of a medium-sized clinic where we do a lot of play therapy, and we do a lot of play therapy with neurodivergent children, which would include autistic children, children with sensory differences, children with learning disorders, developmental disabilities, etc. And then I'm a creator of this play therapy approach
Yeah.
called alt play therapy.
Mhm.
It's an integration of seminal play therapy theories with a focus on just things you need to know when you're working with neurodivergent kids to help make that mental health process more effective.
Yes. I
Yes. And
love
I have a life, a
and
wife
you
and a
have life.
son, and hobbies
Where do you put all that in? That's
that I do sometimes. Yeah.
I remember you saying before, like you created it because there wasn't like what wasn't a comprehensive approach that you could find. So you just kind of pulled from several different areas and created something that is now all play that is just phenomenal in helping these children and families in ways that wasn't accessible before or wasn't even a thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that's the history. I'm proud to say there's so many things that I don't do well. I'm proud to say that way back in the day, I just did not buy into this idea that play couldn't be effective, play therapy, the therapeutic powers of play for autistic and neurodivergent kids, which was the message back then, outside and inside play therapy. And so now we have all caught up and learned that, of course, it is and can be. And now that's something that is much more regular for neurodivergent kids to participate in. But it wasn't at the time that I did put this protocol together to really give play therapists these tools to really expose children to this wonderful modality of play therapy. It's so healing, it's so growth producing, and it's just exciting that, we understand now that play therapy works for all children. Yes, that's all children. There's no diagnosis or identity or anything exception to that.
Oh my goodness. That like almost brings tears to my eyes thinking about, I just like picture this timeline of before and after and think about like the capacity for everyone to get the healing power of play therapy where it wasn't necessarily there before.
Yes.
You're
Yeah.
a change agent. That's what
A change agent myself. Yeah.
yes, yes. Okay, so when I started off as a school counselor is when I first realized all of the terms. I was like, what are they talking about? It's filled with acronyms and terms that just you can't really, I mean, unless you have the root word knowledge, it's hard to make sense of them. So what are just kind of, let's get started. And what are some of the terms and phrases that's helpful to know as clinicians, educators, and people to
Sure.
helping?
Yeah, I love that. I love this topic, and I'll try to remember them all. So I think we start with, or I would start with the term neurodiversity,
Okay.
because this I think is the larger kind of umbrella term. And neurodiversity means someone who has a neurotype.
Yeah.
Well, actually, let me back up. Neurodiversity means the diversity of neurotypes.
Okay.
So it applies to all humans.
Mhm.
So we all are neurodiverse,
Okay.
right? We all have our own sort of unique ways that our brains are wired and how our neurotype functions.
Mhm.
And so this applies to everybody. So we just sort of have this belief that, oh, humans are neurodiverse.
Mhm.
There's neurodiversity among humans, and this is okay. And this is a good thing. We don't all have to have the same look, the same brain,
Mhm.
the same wiring, right?
Thank goodness we don't.
Thank goodness we don't. So, underneath this concept of neurodiversity, then right now, currently, we have like two categories that get sort of labeled in attention: neurotypical and neurodivergent. And neurotypical would be someone who seems to go about functioning in the way a particular culture they're in has deemed this is the standard normal way of processing, thinking, responding,
Mhm.
navigating, right?
Yeah.
And then neurodivergent would be someone who doesn't follow that design,
Mhm.
who has a different way of thinking, responding, processing, navigating that doesn't look like this society created, standard presentation.
Okay. So it's
So
just
that's what
different.
those
It's
two
not
terms
right or
are.
wrong or good or bad. It's just different than
It's
than
just different.
standard. Okay.
I guess part of the reason why these terms are important is because historically, the idea, kind of rooted in sort of ableism, the idea is, oh, well, when we run across a neurodivergent individual, we do everything we can to make them look neurotypical.
Yeah.
Even if that means, erasing who they really are. If they have a preference for a way of navigating, well, forget that. You need to navigate this way. And
Ah,
then we've discovered, how damaging that's been to do that to neurodivergent individuals. So neurodiversity, we recognize it's okay to be different. We all are. And then we certainly recognize these categories of neurotypical or neurodivergent, and that neurodivergent is okay to be neurodivergent, right? You
Yes.
don't have to try to make yourself look
And just as I
neurotypical.
am, like I think, that I am defective cognition can slip in if somebody's saying that's not, you're different. So we need to change you to make you like that. That would really take a toll on somebody's feeling of self-worth.
Hugely, because you're talking about things that are who you are. They're
Yes.
not like these choices you made. I'm choosing to like blue. Well, no, you need to choose to like red. We're talking about this is how I operate.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much you try to force me to look like this. This is still how I operate.
Yeah.
And that process, just like you said, can do a lot of damage.
Oh, yeah.
I guess I should do that term ableism, since I threw
Yes.
that out there. That's
Yes.
another one.
Ableist.
Ableism is this idea that discrimination, prejudice toward those who might have a disability or a disorder, could be physical, could be neurological, could be mental. It's this idea that someone who has any kind of disability is not as valuable, important, worthwhile as someone who doesn't. And
Mhm.
someone who doesn't is the preferred way to
Mhm.
be. So if you do, you're less than in some way. And sending that message through how you treat the person, how you talk to them, how systems are created to
Yeah.
support or not support that person. That's where sort of ableist actions and ideas can come out.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's another one like you have to put yourself into this mold of what we think you should be, and you're not okay just as you are. So
Yes, that's right. And unfortunately, I think that concept requires a checking on all of our parts because, you know, we've all grown up in, we've learned in, we've navigated in, environments and systems that were kind of full of these ableist ideas.
mhm.
So it's just about recognizing that and kind of deconstructing,
Mhm.
getting it out so we can actually approach individuals from non-ableist ideas. And our next term,
Yeah.
which is neurodiversity affirming
Okay.
uh, ideas, that's where we want to be. We don't want to be ableist. We want to be neurodiversity affirming
Okay.
when we work with neurodivergent kids.
Okay, so neurodiversity is a mouthful. Um, affirming. So that's really affirming, like you're okay just as you are, and then just whatever support they need. We're not trying to change them. It makes me think of I think it was Gary Landreth that was in The Art of the Relationship. I
Yes.
think there was a piece in there about like we're not trying to change children in any way. We're just trying to be with them and help the healing practice or process
Yes.
occur.
Yes.
I'm sure I'm paraphrasing it in a way. I'm leaving out some big parts, but I think about like as a client or as a human being to have somebody just kind of be with you and not try to change anything about you. That in itself is just so healing.
It really is. And I think, humanistic approaches in mental health kind of have a leg up on some of the other approaches because they tend to support that idea, like you just mentioned, which definitely is in the affirming realm, right? And child centered play therapy has these elements that value the child
Yeah.
and want the child to be who the child is. And the adult therapist's job is not to get in the way of that, and those are affirming ideas. I think when we work with um, neurodivergent kids, it goes even a little bit further
Yeah.
and really critically looking at how are we talking to this child, How are we doing our play interventions?
Mhm.
As we work on what are likely, real needs the child has, or they wouldn't be there with us,
Mhm.
are we always making sure that the message being sent, even through our play interventions, is we're helping you with a need you have, but we are still validating and valuing you as the person you are and not trying to turn you into someone else. And I think that's such a powerful therapeutic process for our neurodivergent kids.
And what you just described, I'm thinking of that video where I think does your son help you with the demonstrations?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's so cute. The way you interact with him is just like what you described of like just respect. And he's like describing the lizard part of the brain. I was like, that
Yes.
it's so loved and so connected and so confident, but clearly he has some knowledge and he has this freedom to be able to be vulnerable. I love that. And what you were just
Yes.
describing, that was the visual that I got, that they can just have access to the beautiful power of play therapy like anyone else.
Yeah, I've got this quote that I throw out sometimes. It's my quote, quoting myself, reference myself. Did you know you can plagiarize yourself?
Oh my
I,
goodness, I didn't know
I
that.
learned that about a year ago. Like, you can plagiarize yourself. I'm
What,
like,
you press charges on yourself too?
I don't know what the consequences are, but you can do it. So this is my own quote. I'm quoting myself, but it's, neurodivergent individuals are always going to be neurodivergent.
Mhm.
That's just fact. But it's how they think about and feel about their neurodivergence
Mm,
that determines a whole host of possible or not
yeah.
mental health issues.
Yes.
And I think that's just so important for us who work with these populations to think about, because they're going to be neurodivergent.
Yeah.
That's already, done.
Mhm.
And now how they think about that and how they view themselves as a neurodivergent is going to be really big in determining, you know, what kind of mental health issues they have.
Mm,
Because if they hate who they are,
yeah.
if they feel like who they are is less than and devalued, and that they're always should be trying to be this, we're looking at that poor self-worth. We're looking at probably depression and
Yeah.
anxiety and all kinds of other issues we that have been created just because we couldn't communicate that value in being who you are.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Well said. Gosh, I'm thinking in the terms of cognitions, again, the difference between I'm good enough and I'm not good enough. I'm
Yeah.
effective and I'm okay just as I am, or I'm different, I don't belong, or I do belong, or I
Yes.
matter and I don't matter. All of those. And that drives our whole world. That drives our choices and how we show up in the world. Oh, that's powerful
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. It's so critical. And play therapy, in general, I think is pretty good about this.
Mhm.
We do a great job in the whole world of play therapy. I think really trying to support kids and value them. But it's still something that even as play therapists, we need to make sure that, we've got this down
Yeah.
and that we're implementing an affirming process and check our processes, check our systems and make sure that they really are affirming. Some other language, just some kind of good to know language. This is kind of more specific to autism. In the autism community, especially talking about the actual autistics, the adult autistic community, there is a preference for what is called identity first language.
Okay.
That means referring to autism like this: autistic person, autistic individual, autistic child. That's identity first language,
Okay.
as opposed to person first language,
Okay.
which is child with autism, person with autism,
Okay.
um, adult who has ASD, that's person first language.
Okay.
So the interesting thing here is that if you're a professional watching this, especially, um, you've been a professional for any decent amount of time, you
Mhm.
probably learned a person first language. That's
That's
probably
what I
what was
did.
taught.
I adjusted the title. I remember mine was when I was young or younger, 19, I worked with people with developmental disabilities. And that's what they told us in orientation instead of developmentally disabled people. So
Yes.
yeah, that was ingrained in me. And I was like, the other way just feels so different. So saying
Yes.
that there's actually a preference for,
Yeah. It's
yeah,
really kind of neat because, what shifted is that we got this huge influx of diagnosis of autism in the 90s. Well, all those kids have grown up,
yeah.
they're adults and they are like talking and speaking and writing and training about like, hey, I am the person who's autistic and this is what helped me and this is what didn't and this is who I am. Listen to me, look at me. And they really led the charge in, we don't like this person first thing. It makes it sound like this add-on thing we have. And in reality, we see this as our identity.
Mm.
And so that really is what shifted it. But for all of us, it's like it was so ingrained. It was like, you're not being respectful if
Yes.
you don't use person first language. I mean, I remember that being so drilled into me.
Yeah.
And so we have to shift our way of thinking now and understand, for the autistic adult community, their respectful language is the identity first language. Here's what's cool about this, Jackie. There have been several major studies done on this. Three of them I've read. There's probably more than that. One in the US, one was done in Australia, one was done in the UK. And then these large sample sizes of actual autistic adults. I think all these studies also had a large sample size of parents of
Mhm.
autistic children, and one or two of them had a sample size of professionals who work with autistic individuals.
Mhm.
So, in all three studies, three different continents, overwhelmingly, the majority of autistic adults said, we prefer identity first language.
Whoa, whoa, and that's from that's not just like from just assuming that they would want to have the person first. That's the study saying that. So the data is really
Yes.
coming out. That kind of to me, I wonder, and this is assumption, but it seems like there's more of embracing it. It's not necessarily
Yes.
positive or negative. I just see that as who I am, and
Yeah.
I I don't mind being, or actually, that's what I prefer, having that be my identity. Wow.
Yeah. It's definitely, I mean, you're definitely getting into that connection to destigmatizing, the word and the diagnosis,
Mm.
and realizing that, yes, you can have someone who has a diagnosis of autism who has a lot of needs, but you can also be a person who is autistic who is, going through life like a rock star. I mean, it's destigmatizing this idea that it's this horrible drudgery
Mm.
that needs to be fixed, or cured.
Yeah.
And I think part that identity first language does tie into that destigmatization.
Yeah, yeah, it's not anything good or bad, it just is.
Yes, that's right.
Well,
Yeah.
like, give me a little bit of boost to energy in my body thinking about that, that's cool. I love the fact that, I guess before when you said that it seems disrespectful, that's kind of the vibe that I was taught, what, it's been like 20
Yeah.
years ago now. So that's a shift in mindset. I think that comes with research and data, which is so helpful.
Yeah. It really is. And I'm really proud of I mean, I'm non autistic. I do have lived experience as a neurodivergent person, but I'm not autistic. But I'm really proud of the adult autistic community because I think that they are really doing an excellent job of helping everybody really understand autism so much better. And their voices are getting out there, and this is what is starting to change systems that have not been helpful,
Yeah.
and getting really just good, helpful therapies and programs
Mhm.
and accommodations that, an autistic person can access that actually will be helpful and not more detrimental.
Yes, yes. This last year within the symposium, I had the chance to speak with Temple Grandin, and that's the same type of message that she was given, and just really knowing that there's a lot of gifts too. It's I think there's an assumption that this person, with autism, it struggles, and this which may be the case, but there's also a lot of positives that can come out of it as well.
Yeah, I think I like how you said, we're not judging this,
Yeah.
as positive or negative. It's just this is who you are, and who we are, who each of us are, comes with things we do well and things we don't do well, right? And we figure that out as we go along, and we
Mhm.
deal with both as we go along, right?
Yeah.
And that's a good mindset for working with the neurodivergent population, for sure.
Oh, I love it. This has been so very helpful. A few of the terms I wasn't fully clear on myself. So I'm going to put the terms below this video. So if you're watching, we'll have those terms. Any other ones that we need to add in beforehand, or do you think those about cover
Well,
the?
I think those are the main ones.
Okay.
You definitely hear that language. There is a lot of language that surrounds, I think, autism and neurodivergent individuals. But, these are definitely good ones to be aware of, and to understand as we work with this population. And then there is a book that I think is a really cool book. I'll just kind of throw this out there. There's a bunch, but I'll just give props to this one. Judy Singer,
Okay.
excuse me,
Oh,
um, has a book about neurodiversity. She
okay.
actually was the person that we credit with coining that term,
Okay.
neurodiversity.
Judy Singer, you said?
Judy Singer. If you
Singer.
type that in neurodiversity, it should pull
Okay.
up the book. And this is a good book because she coined this term like in the 90s,
Mhm.
and then it's grown, obviously. So that's a good book to maybe pick up and kind of read about this movement. And then, of course, there would be all these terms referenced in there as well.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so this is another way just to kind of strengthen understanding or learn more. Now, speaking of learn more, I know you have lots of amazing programs. Sometimes you even have some free ones. I'm like, oh my goodness,
Mhm.
what a great opportunity. And definitely
Yes.
your YouTube channel. But before we go, I want to make sure that people that are just listening, of course, the links will be below this video, know where to go to learn more from you. What are
Sure.
websites or books or whatever you have?
Um, the best place to go is probably the Alt Play Therapy website, which is simply altplaytherapy.com. To
Okay.
make it easy. Lots of information on there. And actually, there are free trainings on the website. And one of them is called Neurodiversity-affirming Play Therapy.
Oh, okay.
And that was myself and 8 other play therapists who put that together. So all the terms plus a lot of other ideas are in that training, and it's free. So no excuses, right? You can
Yeah,
just go take
that's
it and
wonderful.
watch it when you want, and you don't have to pay for it. It doesn't get easier than that.
Oh, that's great. And you are also a provider for the association, approved provider for Association of Play Therapy, right?
Yes, that's right.
Association for Play Therapy. That's great. So autplay.com. So it's
It's
AUTPLAY.
altplaytherapy.com,
Autplay.
AUTPLAY therapy.com.
Okay. Okay.
And there's also a Facebook page, so you can also connect there if you use Facebook.
Okay, I'll put those links below this. Thank you so much, Dr. Grant. As always, it's been an amazing learning opportunity to just kind of learn from you, and so great to see you.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
And there she is. Oh.
That was fun.
That was fun. Mommy enjoyed that. I enjoyed that. You were right behind the curtains.